Imagine a scenario where, I don't know, your neighborhood post office just suddenly forgot how to lock its doors at night.
Well, that would be pretty catastrophic for everyone's mail.
Right. But instead of physical mail, this post office is managing a massive chunk of the internet's email infrastructure. Welcome to the deep dive. I'm glad you're joining us today because our mission is to unpack a really critical, newly discovered flaw in Exim.
Which is, a very widely used open source mail transfer agent.
Yeah, exactly. We're looking at a recent cybersecurity report about this vulnerability that actually allows for remote code execution. But the mission today isn't just about the code itself.
No, the truly fascinating part is this 7-day race detailed in the sources. A literal race between an autonomous AI and a human researcher to build a working exploit for this flaw.
Yeah, it's wild. We want to understand the technical danger, obviously, but also what this race reveals about the immediate practical reality of AI in cybersecurity right now.
It's basically the perfect intersection of two huge topics. But before we get into the whole human versus AI hacking race, we really need to understand the target.
Right. Like, what are we actually dealing with here?
So Exim is an MTA, a mail transfer agent. Think of it as the routing infrastructure for email on Linux and Unix servers.
Hmm.
It's heavily used in shared hosting enterprise systems, and this is key. It's historically the default on Debian and Ubuntu distribution.
Which means it is everywhere.
Oh, absolutely everywhere. And the flaw we're looking at, which is CVE 2026-45185, it impacts Exim versions 4.97 through 4.99.2, but only under very specific build conditions.
Right. It's instances compiled with NetTLS that advertise StarDLs and chunking, right?
Exactly. The report notes that if a server is running OpenSSL builds, it's safely unaffected by this specific bug. But because NetTLS is so common on those default Debian and Ubuntu setups, the attack surface is still just massive.
Okay, let's unpack this because the flaw itself is a use after free vulnerability, which can be like super abstract.
Yeah, they get complicated fast.
So I was thinking about it like a hotel room.
Hmm.
When a secure TLS connection comes in, Exim basically allocates a transfer buffer. It books a hotel room for the data. When the connection shuts down, Exim checks the data out and frees up the room.
Right, tells the system the room is available for the next guest.
Exactly. But the flaw is that Exim keeps what they call stale callback references. So it basically forgets to deactivate the old digital key for that room.
That's a great way to put it, yeah. The system thinks the room is empty, but Exim still has a live hook into it.
And while handling BDAT chunked SMTP traffic, an attacker can essentially write malicious data into that theoretically empty room.
Yeah, that memory manipulation is the absolute crux of the issue here. They're deliberately shaping the memory layout.
Sneaking their own baggage into the room before the hotel realizes what's happening.
Precisely. And when Exim tries to do routine cleanup using that stale key, it instead executes the attacker's injected data, which leads directly to the severity of this exploit.
And that severity is, well, there's a really scary phrase in the source material. Unauthenticated remote code execution, or RCE.
Yeah, RCE is basically the holy grail for attackers.
Because they don't even need a password, right?
No password, no credentials. By exploiting this, they can execute commands directly on the server, access Exim data, and read the sensitive emails passing through.
Which is already a nightmare scenario. I mean, password resets, financial documents, it's all right there.
Exactly. But if we connect this to the bigger picture, it's about pivoting. Depending on the server permissions, the mail server isn't usually the final destination for these guys. It's the beachhead.
Oh, right. Because the firewall naturally lets the mail server talk to the internal network.
Yeah. Attackers use that trusted internal access to pivot deeper into the broader enterprise environment, probing Active Directories, databases, stuff that is supposed to be totally shielded from the public internet.
Wait, if this is the default on Ubuntu and Debian and it's this dangerous, how do security teams even begin to test and build defenses against something this complex before the attackers do?
Well, that is the exact problem, and it's why the sheer complexity of testing this leads us straight into the most unique part of the source material.
Right. The race. So the vulnerability was discovered and reported by a researcher named Federico Kirschbaum on May 1st. And honestly, the fixes were rolled out incredibly fast by May 8th.
Which is a great response time.
Yeah, really good. But during that window, the security firm XBOW set up this wild 7-day challenge to build a proof-of-concept exploit.
Like a high-stakes stress test.
Exactly. In one corner, you have XBOW Native, which is an autonomous AI-driven development system. And in the other corner, you have a human researcher who is being assisted by a large language model, an LLM.
Man versus machine.
Here's where it gets
Yeah.
really interesting, though. The AI's approach was just completely shocking. It was given a slightly simplified target server, so no ASLR, which means no address randomization, and a non-PI binary.
Basically, the memory layout was static. It wasn't constantly shifting around.
Right, and in that environment, the autonomous AI actually successfully produced a working exploit from scratch.
Yeah, and the way it did it is a watershed moment. The source specifically points out that instead of using off-the-shelf mechanisms to attack the standard glib allocator, which is what everyone does, the AI uniquely took on Exim's own custom allocator.
Wait, why is that such a big deal?
Because attacking the standard allocator is a known science. There are decades of tutorials and GitHub repos on how to do it. An LLM normally just regurgitates that standard hacking homework.
Oh, I see.
But Exim's own allocator is bespoke C code. There are no tutorials for it. The AI proved isn't just copying patterns, it actually ingested unfamiliar code, calculated a highly specific pathway, and built a novel exploit.
That's wild. It basically figured out a custom lock that had no existing key.
Exactly, it's a massive leap in capability.
So listening to that, you would logically assume the autonomous AI just dominated the race and won, right?
You think so?
But, and this is the huge twist in the report, the human actually won the race.
Yep, the human took the prize.
The human researcher, using the LLM, managed to achieve a working exploit on a much more difficult machine, one that actually had ASLR enabled so the memory was randomized. So I have to ask, is the hype about AI instantly hacking all our infrastructure just completely overblown right now?
Well, it's nuanced. The researcher had a key realization during this process. The LLM was incredibly fast-acting, basically like a cognitive exoskeleton for tasks like assembling files, formatting data, testing avenues. It did the heavy lifting in seconds.
Right, the tedious stuff.
Yeah. But the LLMs alone aren't ready to write exploits against chaotic, real-world, production-level software, especially with ASLR enabled, where you have to chain multiple logical steps together across shifting variables.
The AI lost the plot once the target started moving.
Exactly. The report uses this very specific terminology. AI is currently really good at solving problems that are CTF-shaped.
Capture the flag.
Right. Highly controlled, defined environments where the parameters are bounded. But for real-world targets, the human researcher noted that you cannot just let the model create its own space. The human must shape the work environment.
Shape the work environment. So like the human has the strategic vision to manage the chaos of the server, to stabilize it, and create a little controlled pocket, a CTF-shaped pocket.
Exactly. And then they unleash the AI into that clean pocket to do the tactical coding. AI is a tool for digging into unfamiliar code fast. It's not an autopilot for cyber warfare, at least not yet.
So what does this all mean for you? If you're listening to this and you're actually managing Ubuntu or Debian-based Linux distributions, you can't just sit back. You must use your package managers to apply the Exim update. That's version 4.99.3 like immediately.
Yeah, absolutely. The timeline from discovery to weaponization is just shrinking so fast because of these AI tools.
It's been an incredible journey today. I mean, we went from a tiny, stale memory key in a hotel room analogy for email routing all the way to a futuristic race between human intuition and machine logic.
It really highlights where we are in the tech landscape right now. And, it leaves us with a pretty provocative question to think about.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, the human won this time because they could shape the work environment better than the AI. They understood the messy, organically grown architecture of a real server. But as AI tools become heavily integrated into how we actually build and structure our server environments in the future, what happens when the architecture itself is AI-shaped?
Oh, wow.
Right. When systems are designed by machine logic from the ground up, will the humans still have the home field advantage?
That is a terrifying and fascinating thought to mull over. Something to keep in mind as the internet keeps evolving.